If y'all could start, go down the line, say your name, your business, and just a brief background of how you got started.
Hi, is this close enough? Yeah. Okay. I'm Angelene. I own Ida Red. I studied art at TU and product design and did not plan on going into retail whatsoever. I stumbled into working at Ida Red when it was first opening. That was exactly 10 years ago. So that's cool. I mean, I think almost to today. So that's weird. And then I bought it 2 years ago and then opened the location across the street about a year ago. So I just like to jump in and I really fell in love with retail and customers and making things. And I like not sleeping at night and worrying about random products. So anyways, I found a lot of passion in it unexpectedly. So that's my story.
All right. Again, good. Yeah. Okay. We were told close. Shawn Zenthoefer. I opened a little grocery store down the street. It's called the Goods Bodega. It's just a little micro market trying to serve the neighborhood for food. I also am a partner in a long-standing retail store that I inherited about a year ago called Dwelling Spaces. So I wasn't the original founder of that store, but it's something that I just fell into just due to proximity and relationships. I'm a foodie. I was not intending to do retail. I also have an art degree. And yeah, so that's my story. That's my background, just being into food and wanting to bring that to Tulsa. And then, just being downtown and knowing too many people and getting involved in too many projects. That's how I got here.
I'm Shavonna Caldwell. I own Habit Boutique in North Tulsa. I have a master's in public administration and nonprofit work. And so I actually thought I was going to have like a women's clothing shelter. And I ended up selling clothes. So I just kind of literally fell into small business just because I have a passion for business in North Tulsa, which is pretty much a business desert right now.
I'm Adam Teague. I'm the co-founder of the Two Guys Bowtie Company as well as Plank and Mill. I also kind of stumbled into retail as well. We've been
common theme.
What was that?
It's a common theme.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So we started that company about 5-6 years ago. Plank and Mill about 2 years ago, and we've been having fun ever since. Saw us on Shark Tank.
Alrighty, so before we get started, we kind of want to get a pulse for our audience. We want to make sure we know you and what your needs are. So I'm going to ask you a few quick questions before we start. First, raise your hand if you have a specific product you're wanting to sell. Okay, good chunk of y'all. Okay. Raise your hand if you're wanting to own a brick and mortar store. Okay. And raise your hand if you're wanting to sell your items online. Oh, okay. We got to talk a lot about that, you guys. Okay, so just a plan for tonight so you know where we're going. We're going to start talking about what you sell, and then we'll get into how and where you sell it, and then we'll end with how to gain customers and grow your brand over time. Then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session, so if you have questions, we'll pass around the mic so that you can ask those questions. Just so you know, tonight is just scratching the surface. This is just the beginning. We're talking really high level about these guys' stories. The next 3 Wednesdays at noon, we're having lunchtime workshops. These guys are going to come in and really dig into the meat of different topics. So we'll have e-commerce, storefront, and inventory management. So if you want to register for those, they're filling up quickly. We actually sold out for tonight. So there's a lot of people who wanted to be here who couldn't be. So if you want to get into those class sizes are even smaller. So I'd say make sure to register for those workshops tonight. So, all right, let's jump in. Start with shop owners. Tell me, Adam, you want to start?
Yes,
Oh,
I'd love
wait.
to.
Okay, wait. No, Adam, I'm sorry.
See, you said shop owners.
Yeah, I did
was
say
trying
shop
to
owners.
follow.
You're right. My bad. Okay.
Trying to be following.
You're on top of stuff. So, owners, how do you decide what you're going to sell in your stores? I think, there are probably a lot of people with products that would want to get them into your store. So, how do you decide what you want to sell, and what would you say to someone who's like, oh, I want my product to be in your store?
It has to meet the needs of my customers. So I do have a lot of locally owned businesses that maybe they make scarves or mittens, or sometimes it's a really random thing. But I think if you want your product in a store, you want to make sure it fits the actual business. Around the holidays, we make room for little knickknacks and small gifts, but scarves don't really fit my business model. It's not something I need. So I'm purely focused on what my customer buys, and if you aren't making a product that my customer buys, it probably won't be in my store.
Yes, I agree with that. So as a store that sells local products as well, sometimes artists or different people come to you and you have to make the decision whether or not to carry their product, and it just has to fit your store, your aesthetic, and your customers. So that's a balance. And then if you do go to a market or a larger place to find brands, I mean, you kind of have to hone in and make a list of the items you're actually looking for and think about what fits your aesthetic or the brands you're already carrying, and try to make everything go cohesive.
So for you, what is that? What do you look for when you look for an item for your store?
It's kind of a loaded question due to my 2 stores, but for the Bodega, I'm always searching for items that people are looking for that live downtown or work downtown. And then, for dwelling spaces, it's always just, finding that unique item that kind of matches the sustainable and local concept that's always been there. So, I don't know if that helps.
I could echo all those things, but I just add that something I've learned the hard way is you can't be everything to all people. So sometimes, even now, I will fall into the trap of, oh my gosh, these beautiful platters, I just want to sell that, and I go, okay, that's not what I sell. And so I would just say, knowing who you are and what you're doing and who your customer is number one important, because I could tell you, just to be honest, right now there are things in Ida Red that are those things that Angelene soft spot, but maybe people want to buy these mittens here, but they don't. They want fun, local, happy things, and that's who we are. And and also being able to evolve over time. We used to sell so many shoes. Oh my gosh, the shoes that I have sold, and now there's not a single shoe in there. So it's just changed, and just being able to roll with the punches and being like, okay, people don't want shoes from Ida Red no more, so here we go. Anyways,
What would you say, Angelene, to someone who came to you and was like, I have this awesome product, will you sell it? What's the process for you for accepting that?
2 guys bow ties. I think we were one of the first places that sold them. Not everything we have is locally made, but we love it when it is. And so it fit in that category, and it was unique and different. I try to personally not pay too much attention to, this could be argued the opposite way, if this is my personal philosophy. I don't pay too much attention to what's going on in other stores in a competitive way. I just try to be me. And so if I'm like, I like these bow ties, little did I know that Shark Tank also would like them. So anyways, just the process, we get to answer your question more fully and normal, like a normal person. People ask us all day long, really, and we just have to go with your gut and see if it fits in that, who are you, and is this
So it's
fit
very
with what
gut driven.
For me, it is.
Would y'all say it's very gut driven for you, or do you have a more formalized process?
It's a little more formalized for me, just because I'm doing primarily clothing. And so there may be some kooky cardigan that I like that no one else in the world likes. So I can't necessarily go fully with my gut. I don't try to focus so much more on trends. I really just let my customers lead. What they gravitate to, what they ask about, that pretty much is what I seek out to stock in the store. So you really want to be in tune with your customer base, the people that you're targeting. You want to make sure you really know what they like and what they don't like. And like she said, you can't please everyone. Everything isn't for everyone, but you know who your target market is.
I do have stuff to add to that.
Great.
So when purchasing from anyone, just like if you're going to buy a car or anything when you're in life and you've hit a salesman, which I don't know if I'm the only one who's had a bad car experience, but when you're in front of a salesman, they're trying to sell you something. So whether that's a local person that's making something beautiful or a rep that's repping some lines, they're going to say, these sell great. These belong in your store. This is a great idea. But you really need to listen to yourself and think about who your customers are before just buying something from somebody repping a brand. They're selling, and that's their job. And if they sell it to you, they were successful. If you don't sell it, they're still successful. So reps aren't always our best friends, even though we want them to be, because they have the lines that you want and they have the brands that you want to carry. But just because somebody's selling something doesn't mean you have to buy it.
Okay, so let's shift a little bit. Adam, I want to get to you now. So you make wooden bow ties and little wooden lapel flowers and wooden fedoras. They're awesome. If you haven't seen them, go look it up. Talk a little bit about how you decided, how that evolved over time, how you decided what products to make and what products not to make. Because, I'm sure you could have gone a million directions with making wooden apparel. So how did you decide what made the cut and what areas you did not want to venture into?
So you have the wrong panelist for that question. That's my business partner, Tim, mostly. I can try and guess for you at what, but no, he would traditionally be watching trends. Just like I think you store owners are doing, where you're watching what are trends, what's new. And I would imagine that both of you guys use your gut similar to Angelene. Looking at, your stores are successful because your instincts are good. And so for us, we're doing the same kind of thing, looking out there in the market. Where's it gap? What's something that's unserved? What's something that would be unique and different that's not out there that people haven't seen? And so, we started with the bow ties, and we're like, what goes next? What fits in with our brand? What's something that we can do that's different, that looks different than anything else? And so we came up with the flexible lapel flowers that are made out of wood, which was something that people hadn't seen. And then when we were going to Shark Tank, we knew we needed to have something kind of wild and new. And we were like, what if we made a brim out of wood? And so that was kind of the next step there.
Do you think there's such a thing as diversifying too much with your offering?
Yes.
So how do you keep yourself from doing that?
I think sometimes you kind of, and I hope you guys would echo, but I think being in retail is a risk. There is a lot of risk, and you're going to take your lumps along the way. I think what's hard is when you're new in retail and your first risk tanks. That's that's what you don't want to happen. But ultimately at a certain point you have to say, I think this will work. And we have some things that have tried that have not worked. So, and we're sitting on some inventory. So,
So moving on a little bit from what you sell to how you sell, let's talk about packaging and displays. So what do you think about, what are tips you would give people regarding how you package items or how you place them out in your store? What are kind of some rules of thumb people should follow?
You want to start with store or packaging for shipping out?
Both.
Well, I'm not going to do store, but so for packaging for shipping out, and this is probably one of the things I'm the most passionate about, and that is, I think you have to manage your customer's expectation and experience through the entire process. From the moment they get to your website to the moment that they get your product and they're holding it in their hands, they need to feel like every step of the way was intentional and was the same and done the exact same way. That doesn't mean you're not having the personalization or that that hand felt touch, but it needs to feel like it's consistent. And so an example that I like to use a lot of times is we use wood for our products. And that means that one bow tie to the next is going to look different. And so it would be very easy for us to send a product to a customer and they open the box and go, oh man, there's a knot hole on this, and be completely pissed off. Because that customer most likely didn't get an email with their order number and their box or bag came to them and... Hold the mic closer. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we want the people back to here.
Okay. And so they didn't get the email, or the email didn't look nice, and the package came all torn up, and there was no extra products. It's just the bow tie in there with a ugly box, right? They're going to assume that because we messed up every other step of the process that we suck, and they're going to complain. However, if you flip that around, and from the second they get to your website, they see, wow, this is well put together. And they immediately get a professional looking email once they place their order. And then they get a tracking number so they can see, when am I going to get my product? Because we're all in the age of Amazon, which means everyone expects your product to ship yesterday and to be there today. And so you have to meet that expectation, or you're already starting behind the ball. So then they get the product, and ours, we are really intentional. We have branded the outside of the bag or the box. It's going to showcase, people are going to be getting excited. Oh, this is what I ordered. I'm ready to open that. They're going to open it. It's not going to be just the product. There's going to be marketing materials telling them other things about what we do, cross-selling, but that establishes you as a brand who has other things. Then they get the box. And for us, that's like a huge reveal moment. So like the way your product is put in a box, I think it matters. And so for us, we have a magnetic lid. It flips open, revealing, put on this little foam pad, like what the bow tie is. So now when that person opens that and sees that knot hole, they're less likely to assume it was a mistake and more likely to say, wow, that is something that is made by someone who took the care and they individually picked it out for me, and I feel special. So, cool?
Great.
That was my soapbox.
Yeah, good. That was great.
Go ahead.
For the store, I agree with him on the opposite end of the spectrum. So when you're in the storefront, I think you want to pay attention to tags, the bags, shopping bags that people are walking out with. What are you writing sizes, prices on? And for me, I'm a minimalist, so it's pretty much everything's a white background with my black and gold logo. But it's consistent. So people, when they are getting that shopping bag, it's not a white and red thank you sack. It's Habit Boutique logo, and it's mentally making them think, oh, okay, they really took time to present the way that I'm carrying, it's presentation, really. And I think you just feel better about what you bought when it's presented nicely. So it's not like a big science to it. I just think you want to make things look nice. And it also shows appreciation for the people that are buying, because you're not just throwing it together.
Do you have any tips with how you display clothing? Because clothing can look cluttered easily, I think, or look too packed or look too spread apart. So how do you display clothing?
A minimalist again, so I will never have the problem of anything being too packed. I think you want to keep everything in order by size. If you are selling white t-shirts, you want to have small through extra large on your rack. They all need to be facing the same way. Your hangers want to be facing the same way. And you would think no one really pays attention, but when they'll pay attention is when it's not done correctly. So they probably don't notice all of your fixing of the clothes when you're doing it, but if everything was in shambles, your customer would notice. So all of the little details that no one cares about, you want to care about that, because it presents. It's the whole presentation, and you got to always think, this person may be coming in the store for the very first time. What are they going to see?
And quick question, mannequins or no mannequins?
Definitely mannequins. I'm in a unique situation because I have very dark tint on my windows and no one can see them. So, but yeah, you definitely, you want to do it just for aesthetic sakes. and it showcases what you have. But don't just put your mannequin in an outfit and leave it for a year. If you're gonna have mannequins, definitely take the time to dress them up, change them out, and make them presentable.
I'll echo a lot of what she said there. Just making everything look fresh. If it's disheveled or out of place, it doesn't look fresh. And if it's not fresh, why am I going to spend $20+ on it? If you want your items to look of quality, they need to be clean and presented in a neat way. So in our store, we sell $35 shirts and we sell $20 shirts. You'll find that the $35 shirts are the ones that are hanging and the $20 shirts are the ones that are folded.
Talk also about the goods. I think you have really cool like shelving, and I know you package your own like goldfish and grapes and stuff like that. Like, but she makes selling goldfish look really cool. So, how did you decide packaging on that, and what's your process?
And for the bodega, for my little grocery store, it's a lot about abundance when it comes to food. So things that are full look appetizing. If you think about going to Whole Foods and you look at the produce, it always looks abundant. So when we package, we try to make it full, and we try to make it colorful, and we mix the colors together. My packaging is super simple. I just have a few different containers and our logo on everything. We just put our logo all over it so that people can see that we packaged it ourselves or made it ourselves. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And just keeping it fresh. So one of the things I do at both locations, and one of the biggest things is just rearranging it. So it might be the same product, but sometimes just moving it over here and pushing it up, and it helps it look fresh again. And then making sure that like items are together. You don't want to put, your candles next to something that's going to make it smell. Like at, the food store, I do have candles, and if I put it next to my potato chips, they would smell like, lavender, and you don't want to eat lavender potato chips. And so it's just common sense, maybe common sense on some of those items. So for me, it's a constant rotation of keeping it fresh, and dusting is actually, I think, half of my job.
Dusting.
I don't really have much to add, but I think there were some people in here that want to sell their products to stores. So I was just going to say how important that is, like what Adam was saying about all that. That makes a difference for me to buy it. I mean, I am like a packaging snob. So sometimes people will be like, this is Oklahoma-made salsa. And I'm like, it tastes really good, but man, I don't want to, I don't want that sitting on my shelf. Versus we have, salsa is a great example. We have some salsa that just jumps off the shelf. So if you're wanting to sell your product in a store, that really makes a difference.
Tell us a little bit about your process, Angelene. So I'm thinking of your location on Main Street. Super cute. You have, candy all on one display, and then you have your shelves, and then you have the stuff in the middle. What's your process of deciding how you're going to display that, and what's going to be where, and what tables you're going to buy, or what shelves you're going to buy? Walk us through just the high level of that.
Gosh, well, I'm still learning a lot from that location about what this area wants in it. How much retail versus how much soda fountain. If you haven't been there, you should go get a milkshake. My plug. Anyways, so this is a terrible answer, but the answer is really that it just is evolving over time of, okay, people we're really selling all this salsa here. We're going to make that front and center. Okay, we're going to pull back, between the stores. Some things are selling great at Brookside and terrible here, and vice versa. And I don't know sometimes what the magic sauce is on that, but what I can say is I'm really paying attention to our inventory and where the items are placed and how to, push it to the next level.
So she said, what's the customer base from Brookside to downtown?
That's another difficult question because honestly, we sell a little bit of a lot of things to a lot of people. So a lot of different groups of people. I would say that the people coming in down here are a little more sophisticated and maybe looking for more specific item that fits a specific need, whereas our Brookside folks are a little more, we're just out having fun, looking at fun things, strolling around. I don't know if that answers your question, but downtown seems to be a little more sophisticated. That's my answer.
So I do want to give hope to some of you out there. So I feel like these three ladies right here all have great taste and style, and you're talking about how they create their stores. And if you've been in any of their stores, you know that the coat hangers are, or the coat, whatever, the hangers are facing the same direction. The candy is laid out in an attractive, appealing way. That's instinctive for them. And so whenever you're asking them the question, I think it's really hard for them to say like, oh, I just have this ABC series. But for people like me who are not good at those kinds of things, what I want to say is you can find a friend who will probably help you out, who has a good eye. And it's just instinctive. And so find someone who's good, you can bounce ideas off, or who can come in and help you out. So like, it's not a no if you're not good at it.
I want to add to that. For example, my store manager is just so awesome at moving the things around in my stores. That is not, and making it fit together and look like a magazine or something. That is not my best thing. So you know, you can't expect yourself to be the best at everything. So like knowing your strengths and where you are awesome and where, you know, so-and-so can come help aside you, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, two heads are better than one, really.
That's really great. That's really great. I want to shift into where you sell your products. So we're going to talk about online, and we're going to talk about brick and mortar. Let's start with online first, because I think it's a little lower barrier of entry. So by show of hands, how many of y'all sell items online? Oh, up here. But I'm glad you do too. So 3 of y'all. Yeah, you should join us. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. So if we could just kind of rapid fire down the line, talk about the platforms you do use or have used to sell things online, and maybe give them a rating on 1 to 10 of how likely you are to recommend them to a friend.
So as far as e-commerce goes, I've used Magento, WordPress, Joomla, Shopify, BigCommerce.
All at the same time?
No, all differently.
Oh, okay.
Shopify's the best. And so we also sell on other platforms like Amazon, House, Wayfair. Man, I'm not thinking of. There's a lot of other ones. So.
But you said Shopify is your favorite.
As far as for a website e-commerce platform, Shopify is my favorite.
I have just started using Weebly because I use Square for POS system, and they merged. So it works for me because it's integrated with my POS system. I can't tell you that I would absolutely love it if I didn't have Square.
I don't like the internet.
I use Lightspeed, which is ties into my POS system in the store, and it works pretty good. It's pretty complicated. So if you're looking to have a brick and mortar and online, I would recommend it, but maybe not just for online. It's called Lightspeed. Yeah.
Her POS system is called Lightspeed, if y'all didn't hear that. We will get to questions at the end, I promise. Hang on to those. Have any of y'all used like Etsy or eBay or anything like that? And do y'all like those? Do you support people selling stuff on there? Or do you think, would you say that's a good idea?
Here's my biggest plug, and I mean, I'm going to tell everything I'm going to talk about in the e-commerce class next Wednesday. But I think a lot of people think I can just set up my Etsy shop, and that can be my entire business as far as my online presence. And you can do that. The problem is Etsy has a lot of other creators, and it's a place that you're driving. Let's say you're driving a referral there. The problem is you just drove a referral to a site that sells hundreds of other products that are not yours or not bringing you business. So when you send someone somewhere, you want to send them to somewhere that's dedicated to you and what you're doing. So, but yes, we do use Etsy. I forgot all those. Thank you.
That's awesome. What do y'all think was the biggest thing you learned when you started selling stuff online? What was an unexpected challenge to the process of selling stuff online, whether that's the website part of it or the shipping part or just anything with that whole process?
I can give you my tragedy story. So I started my first online business about 12 years ago, and it was going great. We learned a lot. We did a lot of things, and we had built a website on one platform, and we decided that the smart move was to move to a different platform, which meant a whole redesign of the website. However, we've been in business for about 2 years. We had a lot of other things going for us in terms of search engine optimization. We made that change, and our business crashed and burned. So I have learned a lot from failure. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm very new to selling online. I used to just invoice, and online sales just keep everything more organized for me. I think if you're gonna sell online, just have I haven't had any huge failures yet because I'm too new at it, but just make sure you keep a very good handle on your inventory management so you aren't selling things that you don't have.
And we will have an inventory management workshop. It's the 3rd one in our series, so it'll be 3 weeks from tonight. So that's a good one to catch for that.
No major failures yet, except I just haven't had enough time to devote to it. But inventory management has been my other failures. People buying things, be like, "Oh, we don't have that. Great, that's awesome." So don't do that. Don't be like me.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a marketing question. We'll get to more marketing later, but maybe just real quick, what is the biggest way you get online customers?
Instagram, social media.
Social media and my email marketing. In anything I send out, there's always a Shop Now link, and I'll always see my traffic go up because people just click on it just because.
This is a big question because obviously our entire business is based around that. A lot of different things. They both said social media, so I'm going to warn against social media. It is very good. It is very good, but so many people here they have a business and it's not doing well, and they're like, "What do we need to do?" Well, we got to be on social media, and so there are social media companies out there. You can pay them $1,000 a month. You can pay them $2,000 a month, and they will make your stuff look awesome and all of that. But I will just say, like, take it with a grain of salt. Like, that has to just be one component. That cannot be all of your components.
What are the other important components?
Yeah, so search engine optimization, which is kind of in today's society become, I think, a dirty word. It's like, it's kind of scammy seeming. Let me just tell you that's not true. There are ways to do it that look clean. You can go to both of my company's websites. I don't think they seem scammy or spammy, but they are both have a high amount of search engine optimization on them. Another thing is going to be AdWords. This is pay-per-click campaigns, and it's not just AdWords. There's a lot of different softwares you can use for that. The important things there are keywords, knowing what your keywords are, tracking your return on ad spend, coming up with a needed return on ad spend before you even start, and deciding what are you trying to do. Is the goal to get eyeballs on your product? Because maybe your product costs $50,000 and you're not going to convert them that day, but you want people to come and stay on your site for 5 minutes. You can track that. Maybe you want people to sign up for your email letter because you know I can sell them repeatedly with that. You can track that. You can make conversions based on that. It doesn't have to be they bought something on your website and that's the only thing you're tracking. Social media is a big component. We spend a lot of money on social media, so I'm not saying it's bad, girls. I just want to warn against it because so many people love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good. So let's shift to brick and mortar. You all have very different stories when it comes to an actual storefront, but let's start high level first. The biggest thing, anyone will tell you, location, 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 right? So what is the most important thing for someone to consider when they're thinking about their location?
You really want to make sure that it's not in an obscure location, that it's difficult to find. And I always say you got to just be able to describe it without giving the address. make sure people are familiar with it. I always say, oh, I'm right next door to Tropical Smoothie, just around the corner from Booker T. So people know where those locations are before they even know what Habit Boutique is. So make sure that it's not obscure when you're new like me. Now, possibly, hopefully in some years, I could go wherever I wanted and my customers may follow. But just make sure you're out there and don't make it harder on yourself than it has to be. So if you got a really good deal on some warehouse that's hidden that no one could find, it's probably not a really good deal.
I think location, the conversation on location is that you could describe where it was. Maybe having a landmark nearby is good. Windows are very helpful so that people can see your products even when you're not open, or when they drive by, they can see that you're a store. Windows are very helpful. And then, having neighbors or a reason for someone to park their car and get out and not just go to one place is always super helpful. So I think having neighbors nearby that are of a similar concept is not the worst idea when considering a location.
I was going to say the same thing. Somewhere where there's good foot traffic and you have neighbors that echo not in what you want to do, what your customer base is.
So let's talk about your specific stories. Ida Red started on Brookside, and you said within the past year you opened this location on Main Street. Why'd you make that move? What inspired that? How's it going?
Wow, what a complicated question. The idea had just been in my head for a long time about the soda fountain, really. And the soda fountain for me in Ida Red is an extension of what we do at Brookside, which is have a family-friendly, fun, nostalgic experience that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. And so I had this idea of the soda fountain, and where better to have a soda fountain than on Main Street. So that's kind of how that evolved. That's the very short answer. I have learned a lot about food service, and that's a whole other thing in the last year, but I would say it's going well.
Great.
Riding the wave.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about dwelling spaces. I know Goods is in the Archer building, so I'd love to hear more about that. Dwelling spaces also moved from the space right next to Yokozuna to the box yard, which is really popular hop-in space. How is it being in the box yard? Is it, you feel like it's a good location? Like, how's that move been for you?
I wasn't implemental in that move at all.
Okay.
But being in the box yard is been positive just due to the fact that there are other shops there, and it's all independently owned and operated. The entire box yard is owned locally, and every person who owns a space there is owned locally. So it's a really special experience, I think, to be surrounded by entrepreneurs. So that means you constantly hear the struggle, and you constantly hear the realness, and then you constantly are inspired by the successes of your neighbors. So that's a unique experience I don't think that can be duplicated very many places, probably in the States. I mean, that's very unique. Yeah. And the Bodega, I would not have opened it if it wasn't in downtown Tulsa, because downtown Tulsa is void of easily accessed, like, convenience items and grocery type items. So that was the whole goal, was to be downtown. And when that building was available, I obviously jumped on being a part of the project. So being downtown was the only reason I would have opened a food store. So that is core to the reason it exists.
How did you get connected to the Archer building?
Just right place, right time. Just being downtown and into food, and just knowing people who it was just luck. I hate to say that. I hate to say
It's honest. It's honest.
I hate to say that. But it was just luck, and I was very blessed to be invited to be a part of that project. I was working on it for 2 years before anybody knew that it was going to come. So.
My story is different because it's more of a passion project for me. I'm in North Tulsa, which is a business desert as far as retail is concerned. So you really only want to go into a business desert if you're crazy and you don't like to sleep and you want to spend a good portion of your time just figuring things out. So don't ever let someone tell you don't move next to a place that's similar to yours. It actually just helps traffic. I'm in a situation where I'm the only clothing store in my shopping center. I'm surrounded by food. So that poses unique challenges for me, but I literally just wanted to be in North Tulsa, and that's how I ended up in the shops in Peoria.
Shavonna, did people like warn you, or were they skeptical when you're like, yeah, I'm going to open a boutique in North Tulsa? Like, I think there is a stigma there. How did you fight against that? I love what you're doing, and how's that going?
It's really, it makes it difficult because there is a stigma that sometimes that it's like some war-torn gang feud, you're going to walk outside your door and get shot. And it's so polar opposite to that, stigma. So it's really just being there is what has helped. And there are some really wonderful entrepreneurs in the area that have the same cause that I do. And we're just there. And people want to see and they want to know, oh, it's really not that bad. Oh, it's cool. Oh, the people are great. So it's really just sticking it out and being there because we want to be there.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then Adam, you don't have a physical store anymore, but you did. You had
we were all by ourselves. There was no one around us.
And do you think that was the problem of being on, like, you were like, what, Peoria and 11th, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, we took over that facility. Really, it was my business partner and I both lived downtown. We didn't want a long commute, and so that's why we picked that building. Having a retail front was kind of like, that would be cool. And so Tim is extremely talented and built out the whole front and did all of that, which it looked great. That being said, it's not a traffic driving type of item. Sure, we did a decent amount of business. We would not have been able to be a standalone retail location. I mean, that would have not worked. And so we moved because we're actually in North Tulsa as well. So we bought a building in North Tulsa and moved all of our businesses into the same large facility so that as we have new ideas, we have plenty of facility to grow into.
But people can't shop in that location, right?
It's not. No, I wouldn't.
Oh my goodness. Question for all four of you: what's the absolute hardest part about opening a brick and mortar location?
God, there is no one hardest part. So what else?
It's all hard. It's all hard.
All of these ladies before we came up here said, can we tell them all how hard it is to do this? And I was like, yes. They're like, are you sure? So it's hard.
So speak to some of the challenges that you've overcome or are overcoming.
The number one thing is driving customers. That's what you're always going to be focused on, is how do I drive the customers? How do I compete with the big box retailer that doesn't even really have to advertise, but they just have the money to do it, so they do it. So it's really, you're fighting against big box, Amazon. So it's really, you just really have to be passionate about it and driving customers. You got to be friendly. You got to like people. These are all things that you have to have, and that you've got to do it, or you just won't see that repeat customer. So we focus a lot on getting the new customer, but you really want a repeat customer because those are your true advocates.
For all of y'all, was there like in the opening process, was it hard with like construction or the city or permitting, or like tell us some of those stories of hard things when you were actually building and getting to the opening?
Yes, and she mentioned dealing with learning about food service. So with the Bodega, you have to work out months in advance where your sink's going to be if you're going to be serving anything that's food, and understanding the procedures and the licenses to make everything healthy and correct, and just making sure that, you have to check a lot of boxes, and it starts with your taxes and your your licenses and your fees, and then, I got a beer permit from the county, but then I needed one from the state, and I had to go to 13 places, and literally was on the phone with somebody in Oklahoma City, and she said I could do it in Tulsa, and I was like, where do I go? I'm here, and I didn't know where to go, and I figured it out. So it's a lot of asking, not being ashamed to ask questions when you don't know the answer. As a young adult, I was always afraid of looking dumb. Now, as a slightly older adult, I look dumb all the time because I have to ask the questions and I get the answers, and then I know. And then I know what's going on. So I would say opening your own business is a lot of struggle of just making sure that you've checked all the boxes. Like, do I even have my occupancy permit? I don't know. And you got to have fire extinguishers. You got to have all kinds of stuff that, you just might not have thought about at first. And so making sure that you're going to these state websites or offices and asking the professionals that work there, what other licenses might I need, or what other permits might I need? Because there's always one more permit or license that you need. There's 13 permits and licenses, no matter what company you're opening, probably. And make sure you pay your taxes. Those are those are very important.
I've said a lot about Ida Red and just kind of the organicness of it. Also, I'm going to just go the other way. Say that I worked so hard on my business plan for years, and I know all of those numbers, and all the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center helped me a ton. That is a free resource, and they will help you figure out what those permits are and why you need them, and if you're going to have employees, that's a whole other thing. That is the hardest part for me. Actually kind of the best part and the hardest part. And there is a lot that goes into that side of it, and how you want to treat the people that are in your company and how to get them to be passionate about putting the hanger the right way is hard. And there are success stories in that and failures, but I would say just knowing all those things, like she said, is super helpful in doing your homework and paying your sales tax, because you will get shut down if you do not do that. I mean, there are people that have great businesses that just don't do those things, and that's the end of it. So
I want to end a little bit with building your brand. So one part of building your brand is knowing who your competition is and knowing how to stand apart from them. Who do you consider your competition, and how do you stand apart from them? Is your competition on this stage?
we're kind of competition, but I don't, in a friendly way.
Well, then in general, just how do you stand apart? How do you become a place where people are like, that's unique, I want to go there?
I think really my competition at Ida Red is Amazon and the internet. And so the way that we stand apart, what I focus on is the experience you have. And when you go into Ida Red, what is the feeling you have? What kind of music is on? How did the people there make you feel? How did the packaging look? And that, you can't get that experience from Amazon. And you can't get somebody that will cry with you about this little trinket that you want, that you got in time, for somebody's birthday. I mean, those are real moments that I have. And so that's how I compete.
A lot of crying in your story.
Yeah. I 100% agree. If people continue to only shop online, they're going to miss that experience of talking to the sales associate and them explaining that, oh, I also bought that T-shirt. I love that design. That's a local artist. There's a reason for this. Just having interpersonal relationships with your customers, having a good vibe, and your employees. They're the biggest struggle and the best blessing. Just like she said, managing people is the most difficult thing that I think I've ever done as a in restaurants or in my own stores. And then when you find someone that you do, that does a good job for you, just treating them and letting them know, with respect and, being appreciative of how awesome they are and, taking care of them and hoping that they, buy into what you're saying and selling. So Amazon can't do that. Amazon can't give you a one-on-one experience. They can't make a funny joke about their cat. So.
Our answers are literally exactly the same. It's literally just the experience, the relationship building, even if you are a business owner that's actually in your store quite a bit. You begin to know faces and remember their birthdays, or that they went on a cruise and they're going to bring their grandkids by. And it's almost like an attachment, but it's good because, again, it's a guaranteed customer. And then you quit even looking at it like a customer. It's more relationship building. So that's really what sets me apart, because Amazon is my competition. So you're going to come buy it from me just for the experience.
I sell things on Amazon. No, I think so. You're talking about your store, and you don't have any other clothing businesses right next door. You're a grocery. Okay, what are we calling it? Micro market. Yeah, micro market. A bodega. We're using it. We got a bodega. There's no bodegas next to your bodega. There's no soda fountain shops right next to your soda fountain shop. For me, online, and that's one of the things I think is a lot different. There is 100 websites selling almost the exact same thing, and they're on the same dang page, right? I mean, like you, and so that's where I think differentiation comes in wordplay and the way that you convey every aspect of your brand and the way you talk about yourself, from the meta description to everything that the customer sees needs to be saying who you are and what you are and why they should buy from you.
Can you give examples from your own business of like specific things you say or do to make you stand out?
I think consistency is probably, I'm going to call it second most important. First most important is have good pictures. You cannot sell something that doesn't look good, and people can't take good pictures. So if you can't take good pictures, it's okay. Watch a YouTube video. They will teach you how to take good product pictures. And if you can't do that, find a photographer. But brand cohesiveness. So when you come to a site, it's getting more and more competitive. And that's the beauty of sites like Squarespace. One of you said you was on Square. Yeah, Weebly, yeah. So like those, having those kind of pre-put together templates, that's nice. Now you're going to have you're going to have the same font throughout the whole website. You're going to have a similar color scheme throughout the whole website. Your logo is going to be on the header of every page. Again, reiterating that brand. So yeah, I think consistency is second to photos, and photos are number one.
That's really good. Thank you. Okay, I want to open it up now to you. What are the questions you have? What do you want to know? Oh, those were quick hands. Okay, I'm going to come out and join y'all. That was a real fast hand. Hold it really close to you.
Okay. So I am curious about the 3 brick and mortars. With regards to how you decided on your specific space that you're in right now, what were maybe a deciding factor for why you decided to sign that lease and build that location out, or what are some maybe a story about a place that you decided not to move forward with that you were very close with, or what were maybe some invalidating factors for other locations as you're in the process of putting these into actualization?
Parking is a great thing to consider. I wouldn't, on the record, I guess I am right now, say something super negative about the box yard, but the parking has been an issue for people that are unfamiliar with downtown. So, in hindsight, when developing, or if I was signing a new lease, I would think about parking. Windows are huge, and then obviously the price is the biggest factor. You gotta crunch those numbers. It's all about your business plan and having your numbers before you make any decisions. Everything is number based.
I kind of already said this, but foot traffic for me is huge, and so I chose a slightly more expensive space down here than I was going to choose because I believe in the foot traffic right here and the vision of the area. And so I decided to pay more rent essentially and take that risk. It's all a risk. but that's really important to me and to Ida Red. People.
Okay. Super close. So I was going to mention the challenges of parking because nobody brought that up. And just my experience with the city of Tulsa, that they want to help you. They want you to succeed. So I just, don't be intimidated. Just go in there and know that they're your friend.
Any other questions?
So this is more for the online, but what percentage of your sales come from your website compared to other sites that you sell through?
Depends on the business. So for Two Guys, Two Guys is pretty heavily our own website. People are gonna, if you're doing something cool, people are gonna copy it. You gotta get past that. In fact, I have employees who they'll sometimes come to me like, look at this person, they copied what we're doing. It's horrible. And I'm just like, yeah, unfortunately, that's just part of being in business, and you got to let that roll off your back, because if you don't, you're just going to get stuck. For Two Guys, most of our business is on that website. I have another business, the Plank and Mill, the reclaimed wood, which is actually quite a bit larger. We do half of our business on our website and half of it on other platforms. Does that answer your question?
Okay, my question is, first let me say I'm a brand new entrepreneur, and I'm still trying to decide if I'm doing something out of hobby or if I'm doing it to actually make a living at it. So did any of you start part-time or start selling like to friends, craft fairs, bazaars, flea markets, or anything like that before you branched into either the website or branched into your brick and mortar? Did anyone start out kind of small like that first?
I did, but I just talked. Either of you? None of you? It'd be kind of hard for you guys. I'm going to just kind of open a brick and mortar store and then kind of not. So, yeah, I did. That is... we did the craft shows. In fact, for my first business, my wife and I, we did 26 craft shows in the first year. We just bought a little camper and went around. That's a great way to build your brand, build your customer base. It's one avenue. There's a lot of avenues. Can you say your question one more time? I kind of forgot what we're...
I have to. Basically, I was asking, are there any pointers you can give to someone who's trying to flesh out, okay, yes, I could really make a living at this, or, just stick to selling to friends, family, randomly on your website, etc.?
Yeah. It's all about the money, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, as far as whether you're ready to move forward as a business or it's a hobby that makes extra money, I can tell you the first thing we started, we were like, let's make some vacation money, and that was what we were doing, and I quit my job 2 months later. So if that answers that.
Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I would definitely say if that risk is, it's a risk. If I didn't, I have a support system back to catch me, so it's scary if you don't have that. I'm just passing it off. I don't want to.
This one's for Shavonna. You mentioned listening to your customers, asking about things that they're looking for. Do you have any systematic way of tracking that, or do you just kind of keep it in mind? What's your method?
I didn't think I did, but I actually do. It's not formal, but when I am in the store, I typically ask, what you looking for today? And it's really casual, but it's loaded. Well, everybody's wearing rompers now. I was seeing if you had any rompers. Oh, shoot, I don't have any rompers in the store. And so if you are customer facing, sometimes it's really just talking to your customers to know what they want. I don't particularly follow trends, what's going on elsewhere. I just focus on what's going on in my little bubble. So I listen to what my customers want, and some of it is led by what I like to. But, I really try to hear what they are wanting and what they're asking for.
How else do y'all collect feedback?
I do it through my POS system, Lightspeed. And I also, at different times at both locations, I have kept a list where I write down, or have my employees write down every single thing that somebody asked for, even if it seems ridiculous. So that kind of shows me who's coming in and what do they want. You know, we had a lot of people coming in looking for stamps, so now we sell stamps. That was one of the things that came out of that. So just to kind of track where we're missing, like rompers, but not rompers for us.
I mean, that's true for the bodega. Like, somebody comes in looking for batteries so many times, and you're like, I need to find some batteries, like, for real. Like, they need batteries downtown. So it is really listening to your customers and hearing their feedback and writing those things down, even if it doesn't seem important, or, just noting, hey, that's the third time somebody wanted over 80% chocolate. Got it. Other questions?
So a follow-up to the question about making a living, how do you make sure that you make a living? Like, how do you determine your salary? And,
Can we just all say you don't?
You're poor. Totally poor.
As soon as you're finally doing good enough to maybe make some money, you're gonna hire somebody to come in, and then you got to keep extra cash to pay them, because you don't want to be the guy that doesn't have enough money. I mean, you were talking about, what do you do before each couple weeks? You're looking at your bank account. Do we have enough for payroll? Yep, we got enough for payroll. This is you're doing it because you want to do it, and you're going to make some money at some point, hopefully, but starting out, no.
Really sound advice is just don't expect to make money in the beginning. Just don't expect it. And honestly, you probably don't want to take it, even if you are making it, just because you're probably going to have some random expense, or once you get going, it's going to be time to expand again. What's new? What's fresh? So don't take that money too early on, because you're going to be thinking, oh my God, I need it so bad for the store. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it at all. Not at the beginning.
I know a few people who make money doing retail. Currently, don't pay yourself more than you would pay someone else to do the job. That's a very safe place to start, and put the company first before yourself, obviously, because that's your bread and butter. Take your time on figuring out your budget, and that should be built into your business plan. And if your salary is not built in, then how do you know when you're ever going to hit it? How do you know what your sales goals are? Your sales goals should include you paying yourself, and I have it down to the day, like how much money am I supposed to make today to hit my sales goal for this month? And I get midway through the month and I'm looking at those numbers. Am I going to make this month's numbers? Fortunately, my businesses are both very young, so we're generally making those numbers, but I would say putting your business first is what you're going into. So if you're going into retail to make money and to make a living, you might consider going into smaller, doing the craft shows first, because I think that would be, a less risky way to do it, because honestly, it's not a instant reward.
That's a good answer. You think? You think Brookside? I don't know. Downtown, I think, is coming up. There's also great areas in Jenks and Broken Arrow. I see great shopping centers in South Tulsa. I don't have a specific. I love Kendall Whittier. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not very in touch if people are shopping there or not, but I love it over there. Maybe you know more than I do. I don't know.
I love Kendall Whittier. I would say that it would be a less risky, affordable place to start a business, but I don't know that there's a lot of foot traffic in Kendall Whittier. I don't know a lot of retail that's survived 15th Street. A lot of those have closed.
Other questions?
Why did you pick Shopify?
Why did I pick Shopify? I've used almost all of them. I haven't used Volusion. So about 3 years ago, Shopify and BigCommerce were both poised to kind of take over the e-commerce market as far as offering easily interchangeable things to people who are not just automatically coding masters, if you will. And so at some point, I don't know when it was, but Shopify just started making leaps and bounds above of what BigCommerce is available. The integrations and abilities with Shopify, you can be selling your products on Facebook and Instagram like that. Not that other places can't, but it's just more seamless. So then what that happens, it's just like the Apple Store versus, I don't know, all you Samsung people out here. What's the Samsung store? Whatever that one is that sells apps. What is it? The Play Store. So, it's like developers who are developing good apps, they're going to start with the Apple Store. It's kind of like that now with Shopify, I feel like. They're people who are developing apps, maybe it's for analytics, maybe it's for advertising, maybe it's for all these other tools. Shopify is going to be the first one to get those.
Okay, I want to end with one last question. What is the one piece of advice you would give someone starting out? You've given a lot of good advice tonight, but what's the one nugget you want to leave people with tonight?
This guy back here raised his hand. Can he ask one question really quick?
Yeah.
I feel really bad.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
How do you draw people to your Shopify products?
There's a lot of answers to that question. Come next Wednesday, have lunch. We will talk to you about it, and it'll be fun. Okay. Okay, so what was our question?
I would just say don't let people pressure you into doing things too soon. When you first open up or you're getting started, everyone's going to say, you need to be on Twitter, you need to be on Facebook, you need to have a website. And if you can't consistently do it and do it well, you just don't need to do it until you're ready. So there's no point in tweeting today and then you don't tweet again until next year when you're having a sale. Just do it when you're ready and when you can do it professionally.
For me, just having a support system, good employees, like people that I trust, and so that you're not doing everything by yourself. I don't know anybody who owns a business downtown that doesn't have a right-hand man or somebody next to them helping them every step of the way. So I'm fortunate to have a couple or people that, I trust and that I rely on. So having people helping you, you can't do it all by yourself.
I'm going to say know who you are and what you want to sell and why it matters, because the passion that comes from that organically, you just get in a rhythm. And that's kind of, for me, how I knew that this was not just a hobby or something, but it was my thing. So if you're passionate about what you are selling, other people will be too.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much. Can we give them a round of applause? So I think they're going to stay and hang out a little bit. I don't know if y'all have to run or not, but they might be able to stay a little bit. Come ask them. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to come up and ask. If anyone's wanting to attend the lunchtime workshops, if you see Sarah in the back, she's waving. There's Sarah. So Sarah can help you get signed up for those workshops tonight. And if you want to share this with friends, what you saw tonight, we'll post the recording online within the next week. Thanks for coming.